On a cold, rainy Christmas Eve in Savannah, a rich man thought humiliation was entertainment. A single mother and her young son became his target right there on a wet city street. He laughed. He mocked. He crossed a line he believed money could erase. What he did not notice was the man standing under the streetlight. A former Navy SEAL, a red and black flannel, and a silent German shepherd wearing a harness that warned the world to keep distance. No shouting, no punches, just one careless move. And within minutes, everything the bully trusted began to collapse. This is a story about instant regret, quiet justice, and how God's timing never needs permission. If you believe actions have consequences, share this story. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories of faith, justice, and real-life lessons. Rain over River Street. Cold rain slid down the cobblestones of River Street in Savannah, pushed sideways by wind from the river, turning Christmas Eve into a long, wet night. Noah Pierce stood under a narrow awning, where the light from a street lamp broke into pale shards on the ground. He wore a red and black flannel shirt that had softened with years of use, the fabric stretched across broad shoulders that no longer needed to prove anything. His jeans were dark and plain, his boots scuffed but steady. A faint hitch marked each step of his left leg when he shifted his weight. He had learned how to hide it, though the ache never forgot him. At his side sat Duke. The German shepherd was 5 years old, black and tan, chest-wide, posture straight. A black harness rested snug against his body, the white letters clear even in the rain. Service dog, do not pet. Duke did not move, did not bark. His ears were upright, his eyes calm and alert, watching the street with a patience shaped by training and trust. Noah did not like Christmas Eve. It carried too many quiet hours and too many old names. He had taken a short security shift earlier that evening and turned down an invitation to join a group dinner. Not because he disliked people, but because he preferred distance. Distance felt clean. Distance kept old memories from stepping too close. The rain intensified, tapping against the awning, like fingers asking to be let in. Across the street, a woman hurried into view, one hand gripping a worn fabric bag, the other guiding a small boy through the slick stones. She was in her early 30s, slim but not fragile, her brown hair pulled back low and damp at the edges. A thin gray coat hung from her shoulders, more habit than protection. Her face showed exhaustion that had settled deep, but her eyes were sharp, always checking her surroundings. The boy beside her looked about 7. He was small for his age, with light brown hair cut short and eyes that missed little. He clutched a faded backpack to his chest, as if it held something precious. His steps were careful, more cautious than playful. Noah noticed the way the woman kept herself between the boy and the street. He noticed the way the boy leaned closer to her when a car passed too fast. Megan Hart did not want to stop. She wanted to keep moving until she found warmth or a working phone or anything that could carry her and her son through the night. The bus cancellation still rang in her ears. No refunds, weather delays, no apologies. She had counted her money twice already and knew what it would not buy. Eli Hart said nothing. He had learned when silence helped more than questions, but his fingers tightened on the strap of his backpack as the rain soaked through his shoes. Noah felt Duke shift slightly. Not tension. Attention. An SUV rolled up the street and stopped too close to the curb, its engine humming with confidence. The vehicle was expensive, clean in a way that did not belong to a night like this. The driver door opened, and a man stepped out, tall enough to fill his coat, his movements loose and assured. Carter Vaughn was in his mid-40s, his hair slicked back with care that had not met rain before tonight. His coat was dark and tailored, worn open, to reveal a white shirt and a heavy watch that caught the streetlight. His face carried the easy smile of a man used to being heard. Two others followed him. Brent came first, thick-necked and broad, his leather jacket creasing as he moved. His eyes flicked around, as if always checking who might be watching. Kyle trailed behind, thinner, younger, his bomber jacket zipped high, his expression amused and restless. He already held his phone thumb hovering ready. Carter noticed Megan and Eli as if they were part of the scenery placed there for his convenience. He slowed his step, glanced back at his companions, and smiled wider. Noah stayed where he was. He did not straighten. He did not step forward. His flannel darkened as rain found its way past the awning. Duke's gaze locked on the trio without a sound. Megan felt the shift before words were spoken. The air changed. She pulled Eli closer, her jaw tightening. She had seen this look before. Not always here. Not always like this. But often enough. Eli looked at the men, then back at his mother. He saw her shoulders square. He stayed quiet. Carter took a step toward them, his shoes clean against the wet stone. Brent laughed softly. Kyle angled his phone, pretending not to stare. Noah's left leg twinged as he shifted his stance. He breathed through it. He had promised himself he would not step into other people's messes tonight. He had promised himself many things over the years. Duke remained still. The rain kept falling steady and cold as the distance between strangers narrowed and the night leaned closer, listening. The sound beneath the music. The fog thickened outside as night settled fully over the harbor, pressing damp air against the building, while music and voices swelled inside. The rear corridor felt colder than it should have. Jack Mercer moved with measured steps, the red and black flannel darkened slightly at the cuffs from moisture. His left leg lagged half a beat behind the right, the limp subtle but constant. It annoyed him more tonight than usual, maybe because Duke noticed everything. The German shepherd slowed. Duke's head dropped lower, nose hovering inches above the concrete floor. The black harness creaked softly as his shoulders tightened. Service dog. Do not pet. Caught a strip of overhead light, the white letters briefly stark against the dim hall. His ears angled forward, then outward, tracking something Jack could not yet place. Jack stopped. He closed his eyes for half a second and listened. Beyond the distant pulse of music and muffled laughter, there it was again. A thin hiss. Not loud. Not urgent enough to draw attention. Just wrong. His chest tightened. He had learned long ago that danger rarely announced itself. It whispered. It waited for someone distracted enough to ignore it. Jack followed Duke's lead toward the storage wing. The corridor narrowed. Pipes ran along the ceiling, wrapped in insulation stained by years of coastal humidity. Duke paused at a metal door marked Temporary Equipment Storage. His nose pressed to the seam. The hiss grew clearer. Jack reached for the handle, then stopped. Voices echoed behind him. Two private security guards rounded the corner. Both wore dark suits and earpieces, their posture stiff with borrowed authority. The taller one was in his late 20s, athletic but uncertain. The other, older, carried himself with the bored confidence of someone used to enforcing rules without understanding them. "Hey," the older guard said. "You're not supposed to be back here." Jack turned slowly. "There's a problem in that room." The younger guard glanced at Duke, then back at Jack. "We were told to keep this area clear." "Told by who?" The older guard smirked. "Mr. Harlan said you and the dog were done for the night." Jack felt irritation spark sharp and unwelcome. He pressed it down. Anger had never helped him think clearly. "There's a leak," Jack said. His voice was calm even. "Gas or airline? I need to check it." The guards exchanged a look. The older one shook his head. "Not our call." Duke shifted his weight nails, clicking softly on the floor. A low sound vibrated in his chest. Not a growl, a warning. The younger guard swallowed. "Sir, maybe we should at least—" "No!" The older guard snapped. "Orders are orders." Jack looked past them toward the storage door. The hiss continued, patient and steady. He imagined the packed atrium, the lights, the cables, one spark. His pulse quickened. He took a breath and stepped back, hands visible. Fine. The guards relaxed just a little. Jack turned away, Duke falling into step beside him. They walked 10 paces down the corridor before Jack stopped again. He rested a hand on Duke's harness, fingers pressing into familiar straps. "Stay," he murmured. Duke froze, eyes locked on him. Jack turned back toward the storage door. The limp slowed him, cost him time, but his mind worked faster than his body. The maintenance cart sat abandoned near the wall tools, rattling softly as he pulled it closer. He grabbed a pry bar, weighing it once in his hand. Behind him, the guards were distracted, voices low as they argued about protocol. Jack slid the pry bar into the door's edge and leaned his weight forward. Pain flared up his left leg, hot and sharp, but he ignored it. The metal gave with a dull groan. The hiss grew louder. Jack forced the door open and stepped inside. The smell hit him immediately. Sharp, chemical, wrong. Rows of temporary equipment lined the walls. Extension cables snaked across the floor toward portable lighting rigs. At the far end, a compressed gas cylinder stood tilted, its valve visibly loosened. The hiss came from there, steady and merciless. Jack moved fast. He reached the cylinder just as a cable sparked against damp concrete. Duke surged in behind him, teeth gripping the cable and yanking it free with controlled force. The spark died. Jack twisted the valve shut, muscles straining as pain screamed up his leg. The hiss faltered, then stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Jack leaned against the cylinder, breathing hard. His hands shook slightly. Not from fear, from memory, from knowing exactly how close they had come. The door slammed open. The guards rushed in panic, replacing authority. "What the hell did you do?" Before Jack could answer, alarms began to chirp somewhere in the building. Not screaming, not yet. Just enough to draw attention. In the atrium, the music cut out. Trevor Harlan's voice rose above the confusion, sharp and angry. "What's going on?" Jack straightened slowly. He met the guard's eyes. "I did my job." Duke returned to his side, standing tall, chest out, eyes steady. Jack knew what came next. Blame came faster than truth. It always did. But as he listened to hurried footsteps rushing toward the storage wing, he also knew something else. Whatever game Trevor Harlan thought he was playing, it had slipped out of his control. And the night was no longer listening to laughter. Instant regret, blue and red light bled through the rain as sirens cut across River Street, turning the wet night into a shifting wash of color and sound. Carter Vaughn pushed himself upright with a groan, one hand pressed to his side, the other slick with rain and shame. The fall had knocked the breath out of him, but worse than the pain was the sudden silence. The laughter was gone. The attention he craved had shifted away from him. Brent crouched beside Carter, his thick face tight with concern that came too late. He muttered curses under his breath, glancing toward Noah, as if looking for someone to blame. Kyle stood a few steps back, phone dangling uselessly at his side, his confidence leaking out with every passing second. Noah Pierce stood exactly where he had been, the red and black flannel darkened by rain, shoulders squared but relaxed. His left leg throbbed faintly, a reminder he pushed aside without effort. He had learned long ago how to stay still when chaos wanted him to react. Duke remained at his side, black harness gleaming under the streetlight, the words, "Service dog. Do not pet, unmissable now." Megan Hart held Eli close, her pulse racing as the sirens drew nearer. Her instincts told her to move to disappear before this turned worse. But she also knew running could make things look wrong. She stayed, lifting her chin, forcing herself to breathe evenly. Eli's eyes tracked the flashing lights with a mix of fear and fascination. He had never been this close to trouble before. He clutched his backpack again, grounding himself in something familiar. A patrol car pulled to the curb, followed by an ambulance that slowed sharply when it met Carter's illegally parked SUV blocking part of the lane. Tires hissed against the wet stones. Doors opened. Voices carried over the rain. Officer Daniel Ruiz stepped out first. He was in his late 30s, medium height, with a lean build that suggested years of patrol work. Rain dotted his short, dark hair and clung to his uniform. His expression was alert but not aggressive, eyes scanning faces and hands before anything else. He noticed everything. Behind him came Officer Linda Parker, early 40s, solid and steady, her presence calm in a way that eased tension without words. She had the posture of someone who trusted procedure and had seen enough chaos to respect it. "What's going on here?" Ruiz asked, voice firm and controlled. Carter straightened, wincing, anger returning like a reflex. He launched into a complaint, pointing at Noah and Duke, his words tumbling over one another. He claimed he had been attacked. He claimed the dog was dangerous. He demanded consequences. Ruiz listened without interrupting, eyes flicking briefly to Duke, then to Noah. He noted the harness. He noted the stillness of the animal. He noted the way Noah kept his hands open and visible. Parker moved toward Megan and Eli, her tone softer, as she asked if they were hurt. Megan shook her head, though her hands trembled slightly. She answered carefully, choosing honesty without exaggeration. As Carter spoke, Ruiz's radio crackled. Dispatch relayed a report. An illegally parked vehicle obstructing an emergency lane. The SUV, Carter's SUV. Ruiz turned, looked at the vehicle, then back at Carter. Something shifted in his gaze. Not judgment. Assessment. Kyle swallowed hard. He glanced at the broken phone on the ground, then at the small camera mounted above the shop across the street. He knew what it meant. He had always known somewhere beneath the thrill. Ruiz signaled toward the shop. "That camera working tonight." The shop owner, watching from the doorway, nodded. Carter's voice faltered for the first time. He tried to laugh it off, to lean on his reputation, to mention names. But the rain kept falling, indifferent. The ambulance driver leaned out and called about the blocked lane. Parker noted it down, efficient and quiet. Noah said nothing. He felt the familiar weight settle in his chest. Not satisfaction. Responsibility. He had stepped in. Now he would see it through. Ruiz approached Noah. "Sirs," he said, respectful but cautious. "Is that your service dog?" "Yes," Noah replied. Ruiz glanced at Duke again, then nodded once. He had seen real service dogs before. This was one of them. Carter's protest grew louder as Ruiz began issuing a citation. His words lost their polish, slipping into something raw and ugly. The more he spoke, the worse it sounded. Megan watched, disbelief mixing with relief. She had expected to be invisible. Instead, the truth was unfolding without her having to push it. Eli leaned slightly toward Duke, curiosity winning over fear. Duke did not move, but his eyes softened, just a fraction. Carter was asked to sit back down. His coat was soaked now, his confidence draining with the rainwater pooling at his feet. The attention he had sought had turned against him, sharp and unyielding. Noah felt the ache in his leg again as the moment stretched. He ignored it. He had endured worse. As Carter was informed, he would need to come down to the station to give a statement. Something like understanding flickered across his face. It lasted only a second, quickly smothered by anger. The streetlights hummed. The rain eased slightly. Duke shifted his weight and sat calm as ever. For the first time that night, Carter Vaughn realized the joke had never been on them. What the walls were hiding. Morning arrived pale and quiet. The rain washed away, leaving the air cool and heavy with the smell of wet wood and old brick. Grant Miller woke before dawn, seated at the kitchen table where he had not meant to fall asleep. The red and black flannel was still buttoned creased now, as if the night had pressed itself into the fabric. Jax lay at his feet, head resting on his paws, eyes open, always watching. The harness straps were still on the warning clear. Service dog. Do not pet. The house felt different after the night before. Not safer, more honest. Grant stood slowly favoring his left leg and walked the length of the hallway. His fingers brushed the wall near the staircase, stopping where the paint felt uneven. He paused. He did not know why, only that something pulled at him there. Rachel was already awake, sitting at the table with a mug she had not touched. Her face looked older in the daylight shadows, carved deeper by worry she could not hide anymore. "I didn't sleep," she said. Grant nodded. "Me neither." Upstairs, the girls were quiet. That worried him more than noise. Grant pressed his palm flat against the wall near the stairs. It shifted slightly. Not much. Enough. He frowned, then pushed harder. A section moved inward with a soft click. Behind it was a narrow cavity. Old. Deliberate. Rachel rose slowly, eyes widening. "What is that?" Grant reached inside and pulled out a small metal box, dust-coated, heavier than it looked. He carried it to the table and set it down carefully, like it might break something invisible. Inside were folded papers, yellowed at the edges. A letter on top. Grant recognized the handwriting immediately. His chest tightened. Rachel did not ask. She watched his face, reading the change there. Grant unfolded the letter. His mother's words met him without mercy. "If you are reading this, then the house has done what it was meant to do." He swallowed. She wrote about silence, about how empty houses did not just rot wood, they rotted people. About how she had seen women and children disappear through cracks no one noticed. About how she had decided that this place would never be one of those cracks. Grant's hands shook as he read. She knew he said quietly. She planned it. Rachel sank into the chair. Planned what? Grant looked up. For this house to be a shelter, not charity. A pause. A place to breathe. Rachel's eyes filled. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I swear. I thought it was a program. Temporary." "I believe you," Grant said. The words surprised them both. Maya appeared in the doorway, then fully dressed, posture straight. She had been listening. Grant could tell. "So that man," Maya said. "He wanted the house because it was empty." Grant nodded. He wanted it because no one was supposed to fight back. Maya considered that. "He didn't expect you." Grant almost smiled. Almost. The truth settled into him slowly, like weight finding its place. He had spent years avoiding rooms that reminded him of loss. His mother had seen that coming. She had built a trap, not for criminals, for him. Jax rose and pressed his shoulder lightly against Grant's leg, grounding him. Later that afternoon, Tom Alvarez stopped by again. No uniform jacket this time. Just a plain shirt, sleeves rolled up, rain boots still muddy. "We're building a case," Tom said. "Derek's not as clean as he thinks." Grant handed him the letter. Tom read it once, then again, more slowly. "She was smart," Tom said. "She was stubborn," Grant replied. "Like me." Tom nodded. "That helps. He'll push again. Men like him don't stop when they slip. They panic." Grant looked toward the window. "Let him." After Tom left, the house grew quiet again. Rachel prepared food without being asked. Lily followed Jax everywhere, stopping just short of touching him, whispering apologies to the harness. Maya sat on the stairs watching Grant like she was memorizing him. Grant fixed a loose porch board, then a hinge. Small things. Things that stayed. Rachel watched him work. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I know," Grant replied. "That's why I am." Rachel hesitated. "We can leave. I don't want to bring danger to you." Grant straightened slowly, the familiar pull in his left leg sharp now. Danger showed up on its own. Maya spoke without looking up. "Leaving doesn't make danger stop. It just moves it." Grant met her gaze. She did not flinch. Night came again, calmer this time. The fog did not return. Grant stood in the hallway outside a door he had not opened in years. His mother's room. He rested his hand on the frame. Not yet, he thought. But soon. Downstairs, Rachel tucked Lily in. Maya lingered in the doorway, watching Grant with quiet certainty. The house settled around them, boards creaking, as if adjusting to new weight. Somewhere nearby, a man named Derek Vance was realizing his mistake was larger than a fall on wet wood, and regret once started did not slow down. What remains after? Morning came slowly to Savannah. The rain finally spent, leaving the streets damp and quiet under a pale winter sky. Noah Pierce walked along River Street with measured steps, the red and black flannel hanging loose over his shoulders. The night had taken more out of him than he liked to admit. His left leg protested with a dull insistence, but he welcomed the ache. It reminded him he was still moving forward. Duke paced beside him, the German shepherd's black harness, clean again, the white words, "Service dog, do not pet," clear against the dark strap. The city felt different in daylight, softer, less willing to hide what it was. Megan Hart stood outside Mrs. Albright's bakery, a small brick storefront tucked between older buildings. The windows were fogged from warmth inside the smell of bread drifting out into the street. Megan's hair was still damp at the ends, but her posture was straighter than it had been the night before. She held a paper cup in one hand, warmth seeping through. Eli sat on a low step nearby, swinging his legs. He wore the same clothes, but his face was brighter now. He watched Duke, openly curiosity replacing the fear that had clung to him in the rain. Mrs. Albright moved behind the counter, inside a woman in her early 70s, with silver hair pulled back neatly, her frame small but solid. She had lived on this street long enough to recognize people who needed help without being told. She believed in doing good quietly, without ceremony. Megan spotted Noah and nodded. "We're all right," she said. The words mattered to her. They were not a plea. They were a statement. Noah returned the nod. He did not step closer than needed. He had learned how easily help could feel like obligation if offered the wrong way. Inside the bakery, Mrs. Albright pressed a wrapped loaf into Megan's hands and refused payment with a firm shake of her head. "You'll come back when you can," she said. "That's how it works." Megan swallowed and agreed. Outside, Eli stood and took a cautious step toward Duke. He remembered what Officer Parker had said. He remembered Noah's calm voice. He stopped a safe distance away and raised his hand slightly unsure. Noah watched him, then nodded once. Duke sat posture relaxed but attentive. Eli smiled small and proud, as if he had been given permission to stand taller. "Thank you," Megan said again, this time directly to Noah. She searched his face, looking for the kind of answer people usually gave. Noah did not offer one. "There's a shelter on West Bay Street," he said. "Warm beds. They know how to help with next steps." He paused, then added, "There's also a job board inside the community center. Seasonal work turns permanent sometimes." Megan listened carefully. She liked that he spoke plainly. She liked that he did not promise more than he could give. Across town, Carter Vaughn sat in a hard chair under fluorescent lights, his coat gone, his confidence stripped down to irritation and disbelief. The night had followed him here. Citations lay on the desk in front of him. Words like obstruction and conduct felt heavier now that they were written. A man entered the room, early 50s, neat suit, tired eyes. This was Arthur Mills Carter's attorney. He had the look of someone who had handled worse messes, but none that could be erased. Arthur explained the situation calmly. The citations, the footage, the unpaid wages complaint resurfacing, the attention this would draw if mishandled. Carter interrupted once loudly. Arthur waited until he finished, then continued. For the first time in years, Carter listened without hearing praise between the lines. The room did not bend to him. It held firm. Back on River Street, Noah turned to leave. He had no reason to stay. He had never stayed long anywhere. Megan hesitated. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. Noah adjusted the strap of Duke's harness. "You don't have to," he replied. He meant it. Gratitude had never been his currency. Eli stepped forward again, holding a small paper napkin Mrs. Albright had given him. Inside was half a cookie. He offered it up solemnly, stopping short of Duke. Noah smiled, brief and genuine. "He can't," he said gently, "but he understands." Duke's tail moved once slow and controlled. Megan watched them walk away, the man and the dog moving as one. She felt something settle inside her. Not relief, exactly. Something steadier. The sense that a line had been drawn, and she had not been pushed back from it. Noah reached the corner and paused. He looked back once, then continued on, boots tapping softly on wet stone. Christmas Eve would pass. Morning would become afternoon. The city would forget the details, but some things would remain. A woman who stood her ground. A child who learned what quiet strength looked like. A man who walked away without needing to be seen. And somewhere behind them, all regret arrived right on time. Sometimes the miracle is not thunder or light from the sky. Sometimes it is timing. The right truth appearing at the right moment, as if guided by a hand we cannot see. Faith is often tested in ordinary places. A wet street, a tired mother, a child watching how adults choose to act, and a man who could walk away but does not. God's work is not always loud. It moves quietly through courage, restraint, and simple decency. What we send into the world comes back to us often faster than we expect. That is not luck. That is order. That is grace. If this story touched you, take a moment to share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment and tell us what you believe real strength looks like. Subscribe for more stories of faith, justice, and quiet courage. May God bless you and your family today and always.